Hello, dear teachers, and welcome to TeachConnect Talks, your space for elevating your teacher journey and your teaching journey, one strategy, one thing at a time. But here, I'm Dr. Padmavathy Tungaturthi, your mentor and fellow educator. I'm so glad you're here today because this episode isn't just about a method. I'll give you three strategies here wherein you will change your mindset and move your mindset to the next level of simply delivering the content in the classroom to designing the impact on how it's going to influence the learning of the student. Welcome to this episode number 2. This is specially for teachers. Episode number 2 for teachers. Three different strategies of learning and teaching for deeper engagement of students. Here you're going to learn, of course, one, two, three. Now, what are the three different strategies you're going to learn? But by the way, did you know that over 65% of students say they feel more engaged when teachers use varied teaching strategies, but less than 30% of classrooms actually implement them consistently. There is a gap. The teacher wants to do so much, but actually going to the classroom, she will realize that 30% of the classroom is chaotic, cannot do the session, different needs of students, and how is she going to implement them consistently? This is actually, you need to work on this. A little bit of practice will definitely help you implement strategies. Now, how are you going to distribute these strategies? You will distribute them very uniformly and very strategically. Because let me ask you something. When you're creating lesson plans, you're designing the minds of the student, the content, you're feeling that it should go into the students for a transferable knowledge. The students are able to learn in the classroom. What factors will allow them to learn? This is the scope wherein we are allowing the student to paint their own canvases. That is the learning journey. They have to take it forward. For today, we'll dive into strategic teaching methods, three powerful strategies which we are going to work on, and how they can help you reach every student. You need not use all the three strategies together. If you are a powerful teacher, definitely yes. But if you have to feel that you need to get a practice on these three strategies, use them one at a time because they're going to foster deeper learning and they build a 21st century skill. By the way, to refresh, I'm going to list out a few 21st century skills, that is communication, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, computation, and this is not the list end of the list at all. There are many more which we can add. And whether you're teaching middle school or mentoring the high school, this episode will just be a blueprint for deeper classroom conversation and learner-centered lessons are going to happen. And before we begin this, don't forget to visit www.teachconnect.in to download your free strategic teaching toolkit. Or I'll put that link in the description box so that it's easy for you to click on the link and yes, get that strategic teaching toolkit. This is a hidden treasure. I definitely feel that. Now, what are we going to learn and what is a strategy for teaching? Do we have any strategy for teaching? We're going to teach strategically. This is a term which is being used by many teachers while they are teaching, but should be very clear that every decision you are taking, the classroom is not just about going there and teaching. It's about your seating arrangement, the way you conduct the 35 minutes and you're accountable for every minute in the classroom, your activity choice, how long is the activity taking place. You make a list of all this. When you go into the classroom and come out of the classroom, you are left with an average of 35 to 40 minutes. Therefore, your learner focused strategy, how are you going to bifurcate this 35 minutes, chunk them down to give that content to the student. How are you going to make in the classroom so that teachers facilitate and the students learn? It's not about what you teach, but how and why. Therefore, let us take up the first strategy, that is differentiated instruction. Now, what is differentiated instruction? The readiness levels of the students, let us divide them into three broad groups. If we are having a strength of about 35 to 40 students in the classroom, or sometimes 30 or 25, we can divide them approximately into three different groups. The first group, it's not about the intellectual levels of the student, it's about the interest of the student, how we are going to take the visual, auditory, reading, writing, and the kinesthetic students. What are the three practical ways which we are doing it? See, we got 35 students, we have put them in three groups. How are we going to plan these instructions for the three different groups? This is what we call as differentiated instruction. Here, don't expect me to give a dictionary definition of differentiated instruction, because you all must be knowing what is differentiated instruction. For example, the first example which I want to let you know is about the tiered assessments or the tiered assignments. Let I take it as an English language class. If you're considering one assessment or one assignment, what you are going to give to English language class, because assessing is what we assess to the children. This comes after assigning the content to the children. This comes after giving them a task. So if you want, we can also say that this is one task which you are going to give the children. Say, for example, you are giving writing a personal narrative. That is, a student is writing one particular event in which has happened in the story, or which has happened in one's own life, or where he has seen something and he's writing it. That's what we're calling as personal narrative here. Therefore, there are three different kinds of students. How are they going to write? If we take the intellectual level of the students here, group them again, if you're going to give in the beginner level, then we use the sentence starters and the graphic organizers. Therefore, if we are using graphic organizers for children, they will take these graphic organizers and use these sentence starters and do the content and write down the personal narrative. We're not going to give them the complete help. We're going to give them the graphic organizers and asking them to complete it. This will just for those students who are at the beginner level. And who are at the intermediate level, this is a guided outline with paragraph prompts. That means we're going into the next level. We're just giving the guided outline, because whereas we give them the starters, this will be too low for the students at the intermediate level. If we are going to give them an open-ended essay, it's going to be too high. Therefore, this is an average group wherein the intermediate level, wherein they want to learn more and do more with paragraph prompts. So next is the advanced level, say, open-ended essay with peer feedback. If you give them the content, the students are going to write on their own. Then the teacher will assess this. She has her own rubrics. Then the students will understand and get a feed forward and a feedback for this. Feed forward is something where they are going to do for the next time, and feed back is something where they want to understand what has gone good with them and what is wrong with this. For example, if you are giving the same thing to the visual student, you are giving colorful organizers. Now the groups are all reoriented. They are not about the intellectual levels of the group. They are only about how the students understand, either it is visually or it should be auditory, or it should be reading, writing, or it should be kinesthetic. For the students who want to understand this as visual, therefore we can as well ask them to draw a mind map and flow charts and topics. You give them something to draw, something to give bullet points, something to make this canvas a beautiful picture. Then, if you are asking about the advanced student and giving an auditory homework or an assignment, then they can record their self or peer feedback and they can reflect it orally. Therefore, these students who are auditory children are very good vocally. They can speak something very nicely, very effectively, very efficiently. But when you ask them to write down something, these students may not be able to write completely. Then they go into the beginner level. That's how this groups, be careful, they need not be divided into equal groups. Yes, we cannot expect students in the classroom to be in the visual group and the auditory group and the kinesthetic group to be in the same group. Same number can't be there. Okay, therefore we now know the current ability of the student, which method works well. This is what we are working on. Then we have, say, the second example which I want to take is the math learning station. For example, let us go to middle school and talk about fraction. Now there is a differentiation. There are three stations, say, because three is easy for the teacher to work on. Therefore, the first station will have manipulatives and visual aids for the beginner student. Then station 2 will have word problems with real life application. Station 3 will have challenging problems and peer teaching. Therefore, we should first ask the students to go around and check what's there in station 1, where there are manipulators and visual aids for the student. Go to the level station 2, wherein word problems are there with real life application, and challenge problems and peer teaching is there in the third station. Therefore, the students can choose where they are, what they are doing, how they are working on. We should understand the capability level of the student towards whether the student is working on visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. This is how students will sometimes want to change their minds too. They work halfway through and go there. Let them test, let them try, let them understand what they are very good at. Because ultimately, reading, writing, kinesthetic, auditory, visual methods do not go anywhere. It is for the student to understand what style suits him or her well. That's how we come to the third example for the differentiated instruction. That's if they have to build up a choice board in social studies about freedom fighters, say this is a good topic. Then if freedom fighters we are going to work on, the students tend to present their learning. How are they presenting it? They're presenting it in a biography video. They're creating an illustrated timeline and they write a journal entry from freedom fighters' perspective, what the freedom fighter has thought about the incident. For example, we are talking about Dandi March, Mahatma Gandhi's famous Dandi March. This Dandi March, can the student pick up a few pictures, collage, and make it as a biography video with the presentation in between? Because we put all these three concepts in front of the student. Are you going to make a biography video? Are you going to create an illustrated timeline? Or are you going to create a journal entry from the freedom fighters' perspective? The topic is one, that is Dandi March. Then now the student will understand that if the student is able to find good at the internet, collage, newspaper reading, pick up a few pictures, present oneself, How are they going to present it in the classroom? Is it by showing the pictures on placards or showing on the learning management system? How are they going to do it? Then, what is the timeline of Dandi March? What happened in this timeline for about, say, 1 month? How was it taken forward? Who were the leaders? And how are they going to write a journal entry? Whether the topic is one, it need not be changed, but the teacher must take in effort to see that the students conduct the topic in a different perspective. Now, what is Mahatma Gandhi thinking? What he must be thinking during the time of Dandi March? Or what was Sarojini Naidu understanding about the Dandi March? These are a few things which the students put themselves in that place and then try to figure out. That is, mental travel is happening here. This is how we need to work on the goals, keeping the learning of outcomes in place. Now, what is the teacher wanting to do? What is the teacher trying and understanding here? How far are the children able to do the content on their own? What is the help she needs to give further? This will see that the goals of the students are intact, the learning outcomes are delivered, and then the students will try to progress with vigor because they are creating their own learning journey. This is one topic, differentiated instruction happening. I have promised you 3 topics. You must wait for my next must wait for my next audio. This is podcast. Therefore, you have to wait for my next audio, and we will talk on project-based learning. And this will be on the next Friday. Until then, bye bye. I'm Dr. Padmavathy Tungaturthi, a quality education specialist, your mentor for today. And this is topic number 2, episode number 2 for job seekers about the strategies for teaching students for better learning and giving back a futuristic student to this world. Thank you. Please visit www.teachconnect.in and don't forget to press on the link, click on the link in the description box wherein you will have the strategic teaching toolkit. Bye bye. See you next Friday.